Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and today I'm making earrings again and I'm so excited about it because this time I'm not making 5 or 6 pairs of earrings. I am making over 30. Not all of them have different designs. I did several editions of my favorite designs that I had practiced before or that I came up with and was like, yes, that is a good idea. I should make multiples. So if you're not aware, I first started making earrings along these lines back in December. I made a very small number because I was experimenting and didn't know what I was doing or how it would work out, but it went really well, so I decided to make some more. And basically between then and now, I have been planning and thinking about what sort of designs I would like to do next time. I've been making up thumbnails for possible ideas, which it might seem a little odd to make a thumbnail for a half-inch piece of artwork because normally thumbnails are smaller versions of your big art. They were just like black and white drawings with just pen on regular paper that hadn't been watercolored already to make a plan, because these ones that I'm working on now, I actually put down a layer of watercolor first and then I go over with various different colors of pen so I wouldn't be wasting that work that I'd already put in. As I was planning, I figured out I wanted to group my ideas into a few different editions or collections, and so right now what I'm showing you is what I'm calling the spring collection. And so these are all my designs that center around flowers and early blooming things, and there are a lot of ones involving hearts and roses and such like that because I was making these around Valentine's Day and I figure that's also a good spring theme. And then I'm planning on releasing future videos and future batches of earrings to my shop that are based around other themes. Like I've got a pride theme plan where I'm going to do the colors of different flags and various word designs relating to pride, probably going to come out in June hopefully. And also a fandom collection where I'll do little things referencing things like Beauty and the Beast, probably Doctor Who, Harry Potter, that kind of thing. And hoping to come up with some more different collections in the future, and I'm very excited about a lot of these ideas. But for now, I'll tell you about how I'm creating these ones. You have seen the Lupin and paintbrush design before, as well as the lavender design. I showed you finished products of those in my last earring video, but I didn't show you my process for making them, so I decided to include that in this video. And I found that it works best for me to draw in the flowers or the blooms first when I'm working on flowers, and then put the stems somewhere that works with them. And I did that same thing with the pink hyacinths that are down at the bottom, and the pink daisy looking things that I don't know what they are, that are over on the left bottom corner. I wasn't sure what I was doing with those, but once I'd fiddled with them a whole lot, I eventually ended up liking them. And then I also used the flowers first, stems later idea with these cherry blossoms that I'm working over on the right. And I did those in a few different colors, some with light pink, some with dark pink, some with white flowers, because I really like a variety of different colors on my flowering trees. And then I decided to draw in just brown branches to go with them rather than leaves, because usually when trees are flowering they don't have leaves yet, although I have a crabapple tree in my backyard and it gets its flowers and leaves at the same time, and that actually also makes a very pretty look with the dark green against the white flowers. But I also like a cherry blossom or a plum blossom tree that has just the bare twigs with the pretty light colored flowers. Another thing that I did various different ways throughout this video is the pens I'm using. I was experimenting with them a lot, so the first batch of roses that I drew on the pink paper, I drew with a sparkly gray pen, because when I last tried out resin earrings like this, when I had used sparkly watercolors or sparkly pens, the resin really made that glitter stand out more and really made it extra pretty, I felt like. So wanted to try out various different glitter pens on the ones I was going to make now. So I would try a silver pen like that, and then I would try a sparkly red pen, and then I would try a black pen, and I also tried out different types of petals. I did some pointy petals, I did some fully round petals, and I actually like both, but I'm really glad that I did the stark black with the pointy petals, because now that I have the finished earrings in front of me, I really like how stylized that looks, and the black really stands out nicely against the pink, though I couldn't tell at the time how it would look through the resin. I had various cards of watercolor paper cut out that I had painted the background on already, and I did it in various different colors in relatively small swaths because I was still kind of in my experimenting phase where I haven't decided which styles I'm going to make en masse yet, so I wanted to have just small pieces to work with at first. And I wanted a variety so that I could try out many different patterns and sometimes see if different patterns looked better on lighter or darker backgrounds. And I've definitely found that light sparkly blue is my favorite background to work on. I feel like it's a lot easier for various colors to show up on, except for white. White showed up best, I think, on the dark pink color. But it was pretty good on the dark blue, but I really feel like light blue is just a really good background color for a lot of things. Maybe because it's the color of the sky and it's the background of everything, so it just looks good with everything. During my hiatus between my last earrings video and this one, I drew on some paper I put green watercolor on, and I definitely noticed that although flowers you would think would look good on a green background, they showed up way better on a blue background, and it worked way better to be able to draw in the stems in green than to have just the background be green and try to paint leaves on top of that. So that was something interesting that I had to discover by experimentation. And I also discovered that along with those pointy-tipped roses, I really liked how the black showed up against this light pink in other designs, like the little hearts with the stylized one side thicker than the other, and with writing love and peace with little symbols. But I also really liked some of my sparkly pens on the pink background, like a sparkly blue and a sparkly pink marker, although my marker was much harder to use. Paint markers have to be shook so much to get paint into the tip, and so my gel pens were quite a bit easier to use, but once you get the paint markers to actually work correctly, they turn out some gorgeous products. And that's what I used for the centers of some of the flowers on the blue, light blue background, because I had noticed when I was doing my last set of earrings that that sparkly gold showed up especially well through the resin. Oh, by the way, while I was doing this, I was actually participating in the Valentine's readathon that I've talked about a few times before on this channel, but I was listening to an audiobook called Lila, and I had the best time, and I'm really glad that I decided to do that while I was working on these, because it was so pleasant. That is a very relaxed book and gave me a lot of feelings, happy, nice, sweet feelings. So it was really nice to like draw hearts and flowers along while I was having this nice experience. So highly recommend audiobooks for when you're doing your art. That's another thing I enjoy on top of watching YouTube videos. So after finishing all of the designs, it was time to cut them out, and first I tried cutting them out individually as I videoed, but after I turned the camera off and had a little think, I decided it was better to cut them into strips because I had done the designs in strips. So I cut them all into strips and then cut them out of that, and it was much easier to maneuver the scissors because if you don't work with watercolor much, or watercolor paper much, watercolor paper is very stiff and difficult to maneuver scissors through, so it was much easier once I got out of my own way. Another hard part, which is trimming them down to the exact right size, because I trace around the outside of the little medallion to get my little imprint of where I'm going to put my design on the watercolor paper, but that's slightly too large, but it's very hard to get a tracing to the right size, so I usually just make it and then cut it down. It would be really nice if I could get a hole punch that was exactly 9/16 of an inch across, because that is the size that these medallions need to be. But I looked online and I could not find such a thing. So if you know of such a thing, tell me about it. But for now, I'm stuck with the painstakingly cutting them out and probably giving myself carpal tunnel method. And then finally, after stuffing them into their little medallions, it was time to use the resin. And once again, I'm using Amazing Clear Cast. I got it from Hobby Lobby and it works really well. It seems like casting resin is pretty same across the board. There's an A and a B and you mix them together, and once they're mixed you have about half an hour to an hour while it's goopy, and then it'll start to dry and it'll take 24 hours after that. And from my research online, it seems that various companies pretty much use the same recipe, so it doesn't matter whose you buy. But I'm very happy with this brand. It's worked very well for me, and I've used various methods to switch it around and stick it places. I think I actually like these, what are they called? Barbecue sticks? Skewers. They're skewers. It's a one skewer broken in half that I move the resin around with. I found that actually works better than popsicle sticks, which is what usually comes in the kits, just because it has a smaller tip and so I can be a little more precise with it. But that probably doesn't come into play with a lot of resin makers, because most resin makers I've seen make things a little bit bigger than these. And then comes yet another painstaking bit, which is bending the wires of each little fish hook finding and sticking the earring on and then closing it, which took quite a bit of time, but I summed it up with a finger snap for you. And this is only about half of the batch. I picked out my favorite ones that I wanted to showcase for you, and ones that weren't repeats because I did several of these patterns several times, so I'm just showing you one edition of each. And a bunch of these are now up on my shop, and I'm very excited about it. Not all of them. I picked out what I felt were the best designs, and so now there's about 15 designs up on my shop, which is linked below. But I had a lot of fun making these, and I'm really proud of them. I'm very excited planning my next batch. So thank you so much for watching, and I will be seeing you in the next video. Bye!